at historic Tahlequah. Now, Audrey, talk about when the Pullens came to town and the Dixie Cafe and their nicknames and all that. Just start in and talk about
They
that.
came in 1930, and Robert Emery Pullen Sr. was known as Dutch. He was a very interesting man, and I had wonderful parents-in-law, and he started the Dixie Cafe. Somebody came in and walked around and said, "I'll give you 6 months," but he was there for a long time, and he worked very hard. The dinners would be roast beef or roast pork, and you had potatoes and gravy and vegetable and salad and drink and a little dessert, and it cost about a quarter.
25 cents?
Or you could have chili or stew and pies. And this was Dewey Starr, who was the cook. And so my mother-in-law, whose name was Clever, would say, "He didn't come to work because he's sick," and she said, "He's got a hangover," and she'd go get him and make him come get pie. And together they made lots of pies.
I bet they did.
And they were back in the kitchen, and they'd look out and say, "Is that pretty boy Floyd out there? What's he doing?" He said, "He's eating his dinner."
Isn't that neat? That was in the 30s, of course, when
That
he
was in the 30s. Yeah.
Well, now tell me, you told me a story about some young man that didn't have much money.
He came in and sat down, and he said, "I'm embarrassed to tell you, but I have 10 cents. What's the most I could get for it?" And she said, "Leave it to me." And she went in the kitchen and filled a plate. And as she left the kitchen, she said, "I can't help it," and put it down in front of him and said, "Eat every bite of that. It's good."
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
That was during Depression times, and people had a rough time.
I'm sure they fed a lot of people.
I'm sure they fed a lot of people without any pay.
Without any pay.
And that was at 206 South Muskogee.
206 South Muskogee. It was bigger then.
Right. And then later they established the Otasco store.
At first they had a Western Auto, and they went to Haskell, but they decided they liked Tahlequah better. She wanted trees and
Right, then Haskell,
and water,
yes.
and so then they changed to Otasco.
And where was that first Otasco store?
When I knew it, I came here in 1945. It was up by the bank that was known as First National then.
Right, I remember it.
And then the Safeway.
Yes, I remember it when it was there, and then the Safeway came. And then the last store was...
Then they moved it to the corner across from the courthouse.
Right, and then you and your husband had the antique store
And
there.
later on, we put the antique store there. Esther Washington owned that building, and nothing she had was for sale, so we rented it.
So you rent, yes, and that was where they established their car agency back in an early day. They were an early car agency.
Yes, they were.
Yes, the Ford agency, Esther and Wilson Washington. And you were telling me something really interesting about your parents. You're a registered nurse, and I'm sure that we're going to look at some pictures of you in your nursing cap because I just love that. And you were telling me about your father and Mount Rushmore, where you were from originally.
Yes. We went there in 1929. I was 7. I'm 87 now. And the work was beginning.
On Mount Rushmore?
On Mount Rushmore. And my father we had just lost everything in the stock market crash and the drought of the wheat farms, and the banks were not insured till 1932, so the men were out looking for work. He went on the train, and he went in Rumpel's Cafe, and he had $3 gold and had his breakfast, and they were talking about needing a man to mix plaster for the new studio. He said, "We need a couple men." He said, "I'm both of them." And he said, "I mixed mud for 3 people, and I never ran out." And he met the sculptor, Mr. Borglum.
Yes, and you were there until
1941.
1941.
When I went to nursing school.
Right.
Nursing school wouldn't have you if you were 17. You had to wait till you were 18.
All right, so you went and you went to Colorado?
To Denver, yes.
To Denver. And what...
And when I was there, then World War II began.
And where did you meet Mr. Pullen?
One of the family had written me that her young kinfolk was in Denver and didn't know anybody. He was at Lowry Field. He'd wanted to be a pilot and found out he was colorblind to gray and green, so they sent him. He was a bomb site specialist on B-17.
All right.
And so she said, "If you like nice young men, I'll have him call you." And so I met him there.
You met him there.
He was very prestigious. I was a student nurse, and he was a private.
Yes. And you were a nurse at Northeastern for a couple of years, weren't you?
After that, the war was on, and I went to the Navy Nurse Corps.
Oh.
And I came here from California.
Okay.
Tahlequah City Hospital is where the the offices are now for the government, you know.
Right.
And so it was just beginning, and they said, we don't have anybody, will you come over here and work?
And so
So we did that for a while.
so that's what you did.
Then we started our family.
And you had 2 boys.
We had Robert Christopher and Bruce Epward.
Yeah, that's right, and I taught both of those.
You
young-
taught both of my boys.
Yes, and they're both still here in the community.
They live at Petty Bay Road.
They live at, well, that's wonderful. And you told me that Chris was here earlier.
He's just come and gone.
Chris is a Vietnam War veteran.
He is.
And,
He takes care of the house.
uh-huh.
He's redone the family room. He's redone the kitchen.
And some of the pictures
Bruce
that,
is taking care of the yard.
well, that's a good deal.
That's why I can live at home.
That's right. That's wonderful. And you're so comfortable here. And some of the pictures that we're going to look at are the Pullen family and also your family of your grandmother and all her sisters and your grandmother's home where you were born. Is that what you told me? Oh, those old-fashioned pictures are so wonderful. I picked them up from your table over there, Audrey, and are here, and the photographer's going to get those to use.
Well, now, Granddad Pullen never did ask me for anything except to have his picture made with his grandsons. And so we went to have the picture made with the grandsons.
That's wonderful.
He was very proud of those grandsons.
I'm sure he was.
And she had said, why don't we just move to Colorado and you get a bookkeeping job like you used to have and we won't bother anybody. He said, I'm not bothering anybody now and I'm not going anywhere with, I've got 2 grandsons. And he wasn't bothering anybody.
No, of course not. Of course not. Well, tell me, do you mind telling the funny story you told me yesterday that your mother and your mother-in-law were talking about the upstairs, and it was
Oh, yes. Well, my mother said to his mother, have you been upstairs in their house lately? And she said, no. And my mother said, don't go.
And you told me your mother was a meticulous housekeeper.
Oh, yes. She didn't save things. You turn your back, it was gone. She didn't know where she got me.
And you know, I noticed a corner in your house that has 2 wonderful pictures. One of Florence Nightingale. Tell a little bit about that.
Oh, we just bought it and had it framed at the NDN, you know, and my friend Leila Canada said, if you find another, I'd like one, but that's the only one I've seen.
Well, tell people, a lot of people may not know who Florence Nightingale was.
Well, she was the lady of the lamp, and she had reformed nursing.
That's right.
She went to the Crimean War, saw the horrible conditions, and there's some very good films about that.
And it's not surprising that you would be interested in her since you're a registered nurse.
Yeah.
And all registered nurses know who Florence Nightingale is.
They know Clara Barton from Civil War. They know Florence Nightingale.
Exactly. And the other picture in that corner that I'm sure we'll show is a picture of your grandmother in her wonderful old-fashioned dark dress and high collar and the...
Yes, she'd been a teacher until she married. And then you didn't teach after you were married.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
That's right.
And you didn't have nicknames or use slang.
Oh, no.
And she didn't live to see a grandchild, but we all have her influence.
Yes, yes.
We all do.
And you told me an interesting thing about that family. Families are so important, and houses and pictures and the family stories. You said there were, I think, 7 girls and 1 boy?
And something like that. They finally got a boy.
And they were all, on that side of the family, they were from Ireland and Wales.
Margaret Lucinda O'Dwyer was from...
O'Dwyer from...
She was Irish. She married Almut Reed Powell, who was Welsh.
And you said that...
And all the girls they knew that they packed their trunk and went off to school.
Yes.
They understood that.
Yes.
And then they could do whatever was available to women then. You could be a missionary or a teacher or have a boarding house or go on the stage or sing and dance, but you did.
You did something.
You did them.
You did some. That is a wonderful, wonderful heritage.
Somebody said to me, oh, you have her genes. Now, isn't that a nice thought?
That's a nice, nice thought. You do
But
have...
she came from Ireland by herself when she was 16 or 17 years old.
My goodness.
I've been on that Irish Sea. I could see why she never went back. It's awful.
Well, we're going to have to take a station break, but don't go away. We'll be right back.